Hello, everyone. When I showed up here this morning, I realized that I had set myself up for a major failure. The first thing that happened when I came here is that I talked to Christiane. She's like, oh, I can't believe you're coming here. You know, I talked to my American friends, and they all said they had heard about your story and your speech, and they said that I'm so excited to hear you. And I realized, well, I was invited here to talk about failure, so I'm not really going to tell my personal story. So talk about setting myself up for failure. But how are we doing here? Are we good? Perfect. Well, for those of you who don't really know who I am, what I used to do, at least I brought a tiny little film clip to kind of introduce and show you what I used to do. So I'm going to let you enjoy that one before I start speaking. Here you Well, so that was me. I have to admit that it was with mixed feelings that I received the phone call from Creative Mornings just before summer. They said they needed to talk about failure, and the first one on their list, that was me. Hooray! But since I haven't learned how to say the word no, I guess I ended up here. And I immediately understood why they chose me to speak about this topic. I mean, after all, I am pretty experienced on the matter. And I took it for granted to be an easy task. But then as I sat down to write about it, I couldn't escape the obvious question. Did I fail? When I was a little kid, my dream was to learn how to fly. A lot of kids, they have this dream, and we think it's kind of cute, but obviously totally unrealistic. I don't think my dad found it cute any longer when he realized that I had taken off to the US, bought a base rig, and jumped off of my first bridge. But I lived that dream. I loved it. And I traveled the world as a base jumper and a free skier. And I was sponsored from top to toe by some of the biggest names in the industry. And my day, it was filled with film shoots and photo shoots, private helicopters and planes. And I even had a German film crew that documented my life. Unrealistic, you talk? I don't understand what you're talking about. To me, this was success. But at the top of my career, my dream shattered. In 10 seconds, I went from heaven to hell. In 10 seconds, everything that my life was about was never again going to be possible. I had a routine skydive from a plane, and a tension knot, it was tangling my lines, so I was spinning uncontrollably towards the ground. Soon, the rotation speed was over 100 kilometers per hour, and there was nothing that I could do. And my first thought was, is this it? Is the end when I hit the ground? I braced for impact, and it all turned black. It wasn't the end, but it was definitely the end to the life that I knew. My dream, it was shattered. But I was also, and more importantly, I was sentenced to a life in a wheelchair on indefinite time. My dream was shattered, for one, but even worse, my identity was crushed. I had nothing more of me that I knew. I had failed my life. I had chosen this profession. I wasn't stupid. I knew the risk that was involved. Everything I loved in life involved having a physical body. And now I had taken away that one thing that made me love living. I couldn't have failed on a bigger scale, could I? I also realized how I disappointed my family and friends. They all trusted me. I had assured them how I played safe, how I was different. I was different than the others, and I was different from the statistics. I don't think I could have been more wrong. It hurts to fail. And then I don't mean the kind of pain that you get from 25 fractures and 2 crushed legs. Well, that hurts too. No, it hurts in your heart. It destroys your ego, it destroys your pride, and it destroys your identity. And the feeling of realizing that you're not going to live up to your potential and the disappointment that you feel, it's even worse. But fortunately, very few of our own failures are fatal. But we certainly don't act like it. So the thing is that a lot of people, we fear failure so much that it limits us in our everyday life and work. And we hate failure because of the way that it makes us feel and the short-term pain. So our mind, it does everything in its power to prevent us from feeling bad. And that's okay when we choose to do that in our everyday life. But when you take this attitude and bring it over to your work and your creative processes, well, that's when it gets scary. And I'm wondering, why is it that we fear failure so much? Well, of course, I can give you statistics on the working industry and failure. I can tell you that 96% of all startup companies, they fail within a 5-year period. And that doesn't mean that the remaining 4% are successful. It just means that they're not dead yet. But I don't really need to give you these statistics because we already know this. But still, our fear of failure, it prevents us from doing what we want to do. And I don't really mean to encourage failure around here, but I really discourage the fear of failure. And failure and success, well, they go hand in hand. We all know that. There is no success without failure. And we all know when we failed. We can definitely feel it. And other people are very good at pointing it out for us too. So there's no doubt about when we failed. But how about success? Have you defined what success is for you? Because if you haven't defined success, how are you going to know if you succeeded? Are you only successful if you reach that final goal? Or have you created little successes every day along the way in order for you to feel successful? Because if you haven't, how are you going to be able to feel or know if you made it? If I were you, I like the feeling of success. I'd make sure I would feel that feeling every day. And for me, feeling successful, it's about those moments those moments where I felt truly, truly happy. It's those moments where I have a challenge that demands everything of me, where I need to show my full potential. And it's about those moments that give me that jiggerish feeling, you know, that feeling of proud and fulfillment, just success. And a moment like that could be when I say yes to a task where I'm not really sure if I'm good enough. Maybe kind of like this one right here today. I don't really know if I'm going to be able to live up to the expectations. Not your expectations, maybe not even my expectations. But then, if I make it, I'm going to feel worthy. And that is a good feeling. And I may even fail here today. But the thing is, I don't even allow myself success if I don't say yes in the first place. And I love those challenges that make me dig deep down inside of me and then show my full potential. I know that I love it when I'm so close to failing and I have to get my shit together and finish despite all. And I want all of you now to think about such a moment. Think about a moment where you had to give your best. Think about such a moment where when you managed it, it gave you that great, awesome feeling of fulfillment, of success. It can be at work. It can be at home with your family. It can even be sports. Maybe you got a contract. Anything. You can be alone. It can be in a group. But just think about such a moment. You can close your eyes if you want. And just feel that feeling inside of you that's empowering you. Do you have it? Well, all those moments, big or small, for me, that's what life is about. And now that feeling that you have inside of me, of you. What did that mean? That feeling you have inside of you right now. I want you to recognize that feeling. I want you to get to know that feeling. Because when hard times come, that's the feeling you have to pick up. That's the feeling you have to go get. Because that's what we're here for. And that's what's going to get you through the hard times. Because a lot of us fear failure. And so, I'm sorry. But so the thing is, what are we going to do? What are you going to do? What are you afraid of, really? Because the thing is, it's not the actual failure that we are afraid of. It's the fear of failure that limits us. And the thing is, if you're going to reach your full potential in life, you have to let go of that fear. And it doesn't matter if you want to start up your own business or if it's just about allowing yourself to trust another person enough to build a deep relationship. It's all about success and letting go of that fear. And then, in order to do that, you have to push your boundaries. You have to push outside of your comfort zone. And you have to say yes. It's easy. It's simple. Yes, I do. And the funny thing about fear is that most of the times, unless, of course, we are in a life and death situation, fear is totally irrational. And if you ask yourself, what am I really afraid of? You don't even have to answer it out loud, because the thing is, our answers are a lot of times really embarrassing. Because what are we afraid of? I'm afraid of losing face in front of maybe even total strangers or my coworkers at work. Or I'm afraid that I'm not good enough, or I'm not worthy of my position. And the thing is, if you manage to ask yourself every time that you're being limited by your fear, what am I really afraid of? What can possibly go wrong? Then you might realize that, hey, we live in one of the most wealthiest countries in this world, where a safety net will appear almost no matter what we do. So why not just use that to our benefit? Because seriously, what can possibly go wrong? And I think it's four little kind of a recipe or how I used to handle fear of failure. And the number one thing that I needed to do, that was to define success. I told you this already, because I want you to create little successes every day. I want to set yourself up for success. And I want you to give yourself credit for it. Because the thing is, if you give yourself credit and give your coworkers credit for it, that's going to speed up the process of your business. And the thing is, you're gonna fail. That's just the way it is. But if you choose to look at your failures with a positive outlook, maybe even with a sense of humor, it might even make a good story at the end. And the thing is, you can fail 100 times. You can fail 1,000 times. You can fail as many times as you like if you only succeed once. That's pretty good to know. And 3, failing is a byproduct of pushing boundaries, pushing the envelope. And it's not really a bad thing. Failing is a good thing, as long as you learn from it. Imagine how much we actually pay for experience in businesses around here. And what is experience, really? Experience is because they've failed. That is failure. So failure is actually just a negative word of experience. So why not just turn it around? And then number 4, put your life in perspective. And I'm going to come back to that one later. J.K. Rowling, she has a great way of saying it, and I'm going to say that to you here. She says, you can go through life without failing, but that would mean that you would have to live so cautiously that you might never live at all. I like that one. So, why not see failure as a door opener to a life that you would never have dared to enter if it wasn't for your failure? And as a base jumper, I would say that failing could be pretty crucial. So whenever I was about to jump off of a new mountain or a building or whatever, then I used to measure risk versus pleasure. And if the risk was really high, obviously the pleasure would have to be equally high. And I like to take that to our everyday life. I like to take that into my business. If I'm going to do something and the risk is high, the outcome and the value of the outcome would have to be high. And that means I would not need to ask myself, how much does it mean to me to make this happen? Is it really worth it? Even if I might fail? A lot of times the answer is yes, but at least I made the decision myself. But one of the qualities that base jumping has given me is the ability to put things and put life in perspective. And this was the 4th one in my recipe. And because when I was standing on top of a 1,000-meter cliff and I was ready to take the leap off, that gave me the power of controlling life and death. Because I knew that if I made any kind of mistake, that could be the end. But still, I chose to take the leap off. Insane, you might say. I'm not going to argue with you. But still, that was my life. But standing on top of that cliff, it made me feel like, You know, all those everyday problems that you have at home or at work, they felt so mundane and small because they were nothing in comparison with what I could deal with. I had the power of controlling life and death. If you can control that, you can control anything. And that's what gave me that power. And I think that sometimes we need to set life in perspective. We need to remember that we are all dying one day. It sounds harsh, but we are. But the thing is, when we think about this, maybe the fear of failing fades. Because if I sit next to you at the elderly center when we turn 85, and I sit next to you and I say, hey, how did your life turn out? Did you live the kind of life that you wanted to live? What would your answer be? Would you rather be explaining to me how you took some chances in life and you failed some, but you hold no regrets and that was your life? Or would you rather that it was, well, that you never really dared to pursue your dream? You never got the girl that you loved, and you never really knew your potential because you never dared to try. Tell me, what story will be yours? Which story do you want to be yours when you're 85? Because I'm going to be there, and I'll ask you. And it's your choice which one will be yours. And let's say that life was made out of little movie clips. So each movie clip would be a chapter of your life. So one movie clip would be your career, one movie clip would be your family situation, one would be your hobbies and everything. And then the difference between success and failure, that would just be decided on at what point you wanted to stop your movie. So basically it means, do you stop filming or do you stop your movie? Great. Do you stop your movie when you failed that job interview for that perfect job that you were going to get? Or do you continue and continue until it turns out that an even better job turns up 6 months later? Do you stop your movie when your girlfriend, she takes off with your best friend and she even brings your dog too? Is that when you want to stop your movie? Or do you want to stop it or continue filming until it turns out you meet that one person who shares the same values as you do and who you can trust? Because it's up to you. Don't play short movies. Don't play short movies. Remember that we have an entire life to choose from. Choose the movie that you want to play and never stop, because there's no reason to stop. So, if I come back to that initial question that hit me when I sat down to write. Did I fail? Did I fail? Well, I definitely took a leap from the sky, and I crashed hard. It destroyed everything that I was about, everything in my body. My functional body was gone. But even worse, it destroyed my pride, my ego, and my identity. I picked myself up. I relearned how to walk, and I created a new identity. And it took me 5 years to rebuild my life. It wasn't easy. And it was definitely no quick fix. But doing it, that's what's given me my self-esteem back. And that's what made me proud today. And I didn't do it all on my own. I have to say, I was lucky, and I had really a lot of good helpers around me. But it wouldn't have happened if I didn't just fight and continue to fight and never given up. I fail every day. I make mistakes. But did I really fail? Because if I did fail, failing was the best thing that ever happened to me. I know that I would never have opened new doors if I hadn't failed in life. I wouldn't have wanted to. Why would I need it to? I mean, my life was fun. Fun. But it was definitely one-dimensional. And I know that my life is so much richer today than it was 7 years ago. It's such a cliche, but it is. And I know that hitting the ground at 100 kilometers per hour, I mean, that's obviously not something that you recommend. But hitting rock bottom, realizing that you have nothing more to lose, it gives you a crucial new perspective. And there's no way but up. When I look back at my life today, I don't see failure. I remember making a lot of really terrible mistakes, but I don't feel them anymore. All I feel is success. I didn't fail. I succeeded. Failing, that was just what made my success. I'm going to now show you the last video clip, which is me coming back to the mountains after 5 years of training. That was my success. Woo. Thank you very much.